nick parts that you don't want nicked. We are not talking a quick process here. But it'll take some of their mind off the time it's taking to bake the bread on the rock. Do we have this? Are we seeing the picture here?
You don't have to drive through, right?
Yeah. It wasn't have it your way. Verse 8. He then brought some curds and milk. For those of you who don't remember, Little Miss Muffet sat on her tuffet eating her curds and whey. That is the liquid process and the conglomerate when you shake milk up. Curds are the beginning of cheese.
Yeah.
Milk, we kind of know that.
Now that might be quick.
That's slower than the
How do you shake? Yeah, shaking curds out is not quick. Okay? Somebody took a lot of power in this. But he brings them, and a lot of times they had some of this stuff set aside ready. He then brought some curds and milk, and the calf that had been prepared, and he said it before them. Now, why did I bring it up this way? Because remember, under the Levitical code, you can't eat milk and meat at the same time. There's got to be hours in between. But he's pre-Leviticus code. He's Genesis. He's before dietary laws for the Jewish people had gotten in place. We tend to forget these things. And of course, in the Christian culture, where we don't have the dietary restrictions in the 21st century that they did, we forget all about it. We go, oh yeah, it's normal. He had a cheeseburger, big deal. But it is a big deal. Because they went from one extreme to a far extreme, and now we're kind of back in the middle.
Did they have them back then, though, before the law? Did they have the dietary? Right?
No.
No, they didn't, right?
No.
Okay.
Oh, we don't eat blood. That was it.
Yeah, don't eat blood because blood carries all the pathogens. That was just kind of a comment across the board. So then he goes on. He brings them some curds, he brings them the calf, and set these before them. While they ate, he stood nearby them under a tree. He's still in the shade, but they're under the cooler part of the shade, and he's there to attend to their needs. Can I bet you anything? Wow. He's like the richest man in the neighborhood, and he doesn't know these guys right now. And then one of them tips the hand. Isn't it true that somebody always tips the hand? Haven't you noticed that? One of them turns around and says, "Where's your wife, Sarah?" And he goes, "She's in the tent." Then one of them says, "I will shortly return to you about this time next year, and Sarah, your wife, will have a son." Think about that for a minute. Abraham has not told people that he's 99 years old and God said you're going to have a kid. And he didn't tell anybody that Sarah is 90 and she's going to have a kid. And yet this total stranger, first time they meet, says, "Hey, by the way, I'm coming back in a year to see your new kid." From this 90-year-old woman. Now, Sarah was listening for the tent. She wasn't being seen. She was just, they just told her that she's there. She's behind the tent. She's not in visibility, but she's in hearing distance. Now, Sarah was listening at the entrance to the tent, which was behind him, which was behind Abraham. I want you to get this picture here. She's not seen. She's not saying anything. She's in the other room. And Sarah laughed to herself as she thought. Now, do you remember last week who laughed when God said he was going to have a son? Abraham. And Abraham laughed, and God said, "Now you're going to call him laughter." Now, a period of time later, God's bringing his promise back around because Abraham wasn't really sure it was going to happen, because physically it couldn't happen. And now God's messengers come again, 3, if you want to be numerologists, okay? And one of them says, "Where's your wife? If you won't listen, I'll tell her I'm coming back in a year and see the kid." And she goes, "You're right. I'm 90. And she laughs. Now, if you were God and God's messenger, and you were giving a message to somebody who was married, and both them and their spouse, blew it off, I think you would just kind of say, "Okay, they don't want it, they don't get it, bye." That's not how God operates. And I love this next line. Sarah laughed to herself as she thought, "After I'm worn out and my Lord is old? Yeah, how will I now have this pleasure?" Then the Lord said to Abraham. See, one of these 3 guys, now you can take it any way you like. God can manifest himself any way he chooses, can't he?
Yeah.
Now, you say yes, but think about it for a minute. When you say yes, it is true, but be careful because people will try and twist that to their agenda. I don't know if any of you have looked on YouTube or TikTok or any of them lately, but there's a minister out there, and I am saying this with condemnation to this pastor individually. He's trying to say that proves that God is transgender. That is a lie from hell. Let me make that very clear. God is a spirit. He carries characteristics of both males and females because he created both of us and he breathed into all of us, but he is not embodied in a gender. Are we okay with that? A spirit is genderless. And then some other minister will say, "Well, that proves he's binary." No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. It's a spirit thing. We don't understand the spirit thing. Now, there's my 2-minute diatribe off the track, so here we go back. The Lord said to Abraham, "Why did Sarah laugh and say, 'Will I really have a child now that I'm old?'" See, they didn't try, but the Lord heard her in another room. The Lord heard her response. I'm going to warn you folks, if the Lord can hear her in another room while he's sitting there eating dinner, he can hear you in the quietness of your own heart. Amen? And he didn't condemn her. They turned to her husband and says, "Why do you think she reacted that way?" Now, see, I personally think that God was looking at Abram and going, "Did you tell her what I said?" So she was prepared. When you left, now she thinks she's in on the joke. He goes on, he says, why did she laugh like that? And then verse 14, I wish the Christian church would read verse 14 again and again and again. I really want you all to put it on your refrigerator. I really want you all to put it on your bathroom mirror. I really want you to put it on the dashboard next to your speedometer. I really want you to put it on the back of your nameplate at your job. Is anything too hard for the Lord? Is anything too hard for God? I want you to think about that for a minute. Do you believe that? Do you really believe it? Do you believe that 1 year from now at this same time, we could have 100 people in our church?
All things are possible.
Do you believe that God could change the heart of the hardest human being you know? Do you believe that God could 100% set a person free from their addiction?
Yes.
I want you to go farther with that. Do you believe that not only can God set the person free from their addiction, but to the freedom that their addiction no longer impacts them? Whatever the addiction is. He who the Lord makes free is free indeed. He says, I'll return at the appointed time next year, and Sarah will have a son. Verse 15, Sarah was afraid. How did he hear me? I snickered inside the house. He was outside, down, a couple, 50 feet away. How did he hear me snicker? How many of you ever been caught with your hand in a cookie jar, so to speak? Okay? How many of you caught your kids in the cookie jar? Cookie crumbs all over their face. Do you have a cookie? No. Stand by the broken window with a baseball bat. Did you hit a ball through it? No. That's the other one. Did you break that window? He has a cookie. Verse 15. So human. Please remember these are human beings. Please remember that they have all the emotions, feelings, and understandings that we do. Don't put them up on such a pedestal that we forget that they were going through day by day like you are. Sarah was afraid, so she lied. Is that human nature at work or not?
Yeah.
I'm afraid, so I'll just tell a lie. I'll get myself out of it by not telling the truth. And God's going to speak to her and give her a child at that age when she lies? Yeah. Anybody here perfect? Anybody here working on it?
Yeah.
Any of you planning on glorification? That's perfection.
Trying.
See, Christian perfection doesn't mean you won't make a mistake. Christian perfection says that when you do make this mistake, instead of trying to hide it, you go back to God and confess it and say, help me do better. That's Christian perfection.
And we're in good company with Abraham and Sarah.
Yeah. So Sarah lied. She says, I didn't laugh. No, it wasn't me. It was the girl next door. God recognizes everything. Let me say that again. God recognizes everything. And many times God is gracious. You can lie to God about your spiritual condition all you want. You can lie to yourself about your spiritual condition all you want. But God's not going to let you go. If you're not growing closer to God, if you think you have everything God has for you, God's not going to let you go. And I hear this conversation. Sarah is still in the house. She has not come out yet. And she's telling herself, no, he heard me. What am I going to do? Is he not going to give me the baby now? I really want the baby, but I'm old. No, I didn't laugh. No, it wasn't me. And it says, but the Lord said, yeah, you did. You laughed. None of us like getting caught up when we've done something. Is this a sin? How many of you would naturally laugh if you were told that at 90 years old you were going to have a kid? But most of us would say, sure, right, are you nuts? Most of us would laugh. That's just normal. But we got caught. Why did she laugh? I didn't laugh. I didn't hear me. I was in another room. I was quiet. I just kind of snickered. It wasn't really a laugh. God doesn't let us go because he wants to give us better. He goes, yeah, you did laugh. And I can hear it now. This is not written in Scripture. This is my understanding of it. But I can tell you how I would have reacted. Yeah, you're right. How many of you would have had a response similar to that? Yeah, you caught me. In the meantime, they finished eating. I want you to think about this. It's the heat of the day. Now, I don't know I have never been over to that area of the world. Okay? I could be totally off base here, and some of you have been there, so afterwards tell me, you online, 100 Bull Run Road, Grace Community Church of the Nazarene, Pennington, New Jersey, 08534. You can tell me too. Or you can send it to us on a comment line.
It's a dry heat, it's okay.
You know what, Kurt? I've been in dry heat. I've been in Arizona when it's 115. It is still hot. But there's been a good amount of time passed. I know from my experience, most places, the hottest time happens between 10 and 4:30, 5 o'clock. Now, I have no idea exactly what it said. They came in the heat of the day, so somewhere between 10 and 5. And take the time to bake the bread and make the cheese and cut up the critter and cook the critter and hand it to the critter, and then the time to eat, a few hours have passed. Can we agree to that? So my guess is the big heat of the day has passed. It's starting to get cooler. These guys have been washed, fed, hydrated, given the message that God told them to give. When all those things happen, what do? You leave. When I was growing up, there was a movie. Most of you have seen it. Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Okay? What some people don't know, the story ends, they go to the credits, and there's always a bunch of people at the end of the credits who, the minute the first set of credits roll, as soon as the stars are over, they leave. How many are in that boat? Then there's some who wait to see just what's going on. My wife and I, we have this bad habit. We read through the credits. And the reason we do it? Because we want to be obnoxious. We find the strangest name in all the credits that we can find. Yarush Havadniak. And we cheer for him like there's no tomorrow. And people around us who are still waiting for whatever reason, they're going, why?
Why not?
Why not? We look for the oddest name. And that's who we cheer for. Look, it's Harush Navashiak. By the way, you online, if your name is Harush Navashiak, I don't even know if you're in the business, okay? I made the name up. But in Ferris Bueller in particular, after the last credit, he comes walking back on stage. Movie's over. Go home! Go! It's done! There's nothing else. And then he walks on stage. That's how God works. When he gives you the message, he then says, it's okay, go home. And that's what happened here. Then, when the men got up, after all this, verse 16, the men got up to leave. They looked down the hill to the plain. Remember, a couple chapters ago, Lot got the good grassland in the plain. Abraham went up into the high country. They were with Abraham in the high country. They looked down on the plain of Sodom and Gomorrah, and they said, I think we're going to leave and go that way. And Abraham walked along with them to see them on their way. How many of you, when you have family and they come to visit and then they're ready to go home, you stand at the door? Or maybe you stand on the front porch and go, be safe, have a good trip. And sometimes chat and chat and chat, and other times they're in a hurry. And after the car pulls out and they start down, they're still waving at the back of the car. In my case, my grandkids are going, and for when they throw them back. Then the Lord said, as they're pulling away, he turns to his colleagues and he says, shall I hide from Abraham what I'm about to do? I have another message. Should I hide it from Abraham? Abraham will surely become a great and powerful nation, and all the nations on the earth will be blessed through him, for I have chosen him. By the way, the I Am has chosen you. And his household after him to keep the way of the Lord by doing what is right and just, so that the Lord will bring about for Abraham what he was promised. Should I keep it a secret? You think he's ready to hear it? We told it to him. We gave him a vision. We told it to him. We told him this was going to happen. We told him he was going to have a kid. He laughed. We told his wife she's going to have a kid. She laughed. Should we hide it from him? Should we make him live by faith? Or should we give him a hint? I'll ask you the same question in closing. Do you think God's done with you? Or do you think there's something else? Has God been trying to tell you what it is and you haven't wanted to hear it? I'm old. I don't know that much. Do you know what I really like? Or is God holding back some of the message because he's gone, you're not ready for it? Dear Lord, help us to be ready to hear you. Lord, we know that Abraham did all the right stuff. He washed his guests' feet. He gave them food and refreshment. He took them out of the heat of the day. He walked with them on their journey as they asked. But Lord, he didn't really understand the message or trust it. Lord,